Welcome back, everyone, yet again to a great episode of Hotel Talk. And today I always keep saying this on all of the podcasts, a dear friend, but really, really a dear friend. We go back to kids together, uni days and before, Mr. Victor Ioannides, who is the managing director of his family's business, which is Nicos Rossos Insurance Brokers. And I can't wait to delve into the subject of insurance because it's something that I don't know that much about, and I'm sure our listeners don't know that much about. So, Victor, welcome.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
It really, for me too. So, Victor, why don't we start by, actually, before we get into insurance, so we were studying at the same time, 20 minutes apart, Warwick and Birmingham. We met a few times during that era. And then afterwards you went to London. So yeah, and then I was in Surrey at that time. So yeah, they were good days.
Good days.
But you studied finance.
Yes, I did.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Like, why did you study finance? How did that set you up for life? You know, you've got quite a big family empire, if I can call it that you were coming back to. Did you always know you were going to come back and work in that? And so what was the process, your thought process growing up that, okay, this is what I might get into and what can help me?
Yeah. Well, as probably most kids at the time, teenagers, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. So, and I definitely didn't know much about insurance, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was more into numbers, economics, things like that.
And so you're a math geek at school.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good thing. Own it.
I wouldn't say a maths geek. I liked it, but I didn't dislike other stuff as well. So I like art as well.
Well, your family's very arty. Your sister is super arty. And I should mention everyone, actually, that we've worked with Victor's sister in St. Raphael Resort. Yeah. She's an interior designer. And she did our Founders Suite and our Octagon restaurant.
Yeah. It was quite a few years ago, right?
I think it was one of her first jobs after she finished studying. And but she did a great job. So, yeah.
Cool. So, so eventually I decided, yes, I want to go towards the numbers area. And towards the end of high school, when we did accounting, I kind of liked the feeling of numbers agreeing and falling into place and everything being in harmony. So I decided to go and study accounting and finance at Warwick University.
Which is one of the best in the UK for accounting and finance.
It's considered as one of the best business schools. Yeah. Had a great time, obviously, student life. And then I went to London to do a master's in finance at Imperial College. Also had a good time, also enjoyed the course, very interesting. And then the time comes when you have to get serious and think, okay, student years are over, you have to see what you're going to do.
What am I going to do with this? Yeah.
Exactly. I was still unsure as to what exactly I wanted to do. So I decided to choose a profession that would utilize what I've learned, but also open some doors and give options for the future. So I decided to go and train as a chartered accountant, which means that you have to get a work contract, start working at an audit firm, but at the same time study for passing the exams of the Associate Chartered Accountant qualification. I started with a firm in the UK, in London, training and working at the same time.
Weren't you with PwC, or was that later?
That was later.
Okay.
It was another firm called Chantry Vellacott, DFK, based in London. It was among the top 15 at that time. Doesn't exist anymore because it's been bought out. And then, so I stayed there for 2 or 3 years. And then I moved back to Cyprus, to PwC, finished off my ACA qualification, and stayed there for a bit more in the corporate finance department. Corporate finance has to do mostly with mergers and acquisitions, due diligence for companies that want to list on the stock market, feasibility studies for new products or new businesses. And so I stayed there for another 3 years, and then insurance came. The insurance was a family business, which was started by my grandfather.
Yeah, from your mum's side, your maternal side.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It began in the early 90s, and at some point, when my grandfather became around 83 years old, he decided to retire, and he had to decide what to do with the business. And at that point, I thought, I'll go and see what it's about. I had no idea, not much. And that I did. I went there thinking, okay, I'll check it out. I'll see if I like it.
Because you were still quite young at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. And he retired or was retiring? I mean, did he kind of help mentor you, or was it left very much to the team that was in place to train you and expose you to that world?
Yeah. Well, he wanted to retire. But, wanting to retire and actually doing it when it's a business you've started is not that easy. So his initial idea was to stay for another 3 or 4 months and then just focus on charity stuff.
Yeah.
But then there's always things to do in business. There's always things to think about.
And there was no one else in the family working there? Or
No. At that moment, no.
And so that's from your mum's side. And are there any other cousins or uncles or
Yes. So my
could have gone into it and didn't?
Yeah. So my grandfather has 2 daughters, and my mother has myself and my sister, and my aunt has 2 sons. The one son, the first son of my aunt, did join the company, but only briefly. Then he left. So at the time when my grandfather wanted to retire, there was no one else.
Yeah.
So he said, why don't you come and try? I was, at the beginning, I was very adamant that I want to stay in my profession. I want to, grow in.
And you were with PwC, a good,
excellent
a good
employer,
company. You had
company.
a good path ahead of you.
Yes, yeah. You can't say enough about how good a company PwC is. So then he said, why don't you try? I said, fine. So I went there. I thought, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I can always go back. But then I went there. It took me some time because it was a bit of a culture shock. So it took me some time to get used to it.
How big is the company? How many team players are there? And tell us a bit about the company.
So we're 9 of us here in Limassol. And we also acquired another insurance broker in London a couple of years ago. So there's another 3 colleagues sitting in London. So as a group, we're 12. But yeah, it was a culture shock in the sense that you were leaving from a company that was had its departments. Everybody had their job. Each department knew what they were doing. You had the ability to focus on the project you were working on. You didn't have to think about marketing. You didn't have to think about HR. You didn't have to think about office administration. Nothing, because at PwC, you're working on this specific project with your team. And that's it. Everything else is being taken care of. Coming to a smaller company and being in the management, you have to think about everything. And that, for me, I needed time to transition into being able to handling so many things coming from somewhere where I was very, very focused on the actual project I was doing. So, but yeah, it turned
Worked
out.
out,
It
huh?
it
Like
worked out.
Were you surprised when you went and you were like, actually, I like it?
Yes, because there were lots of aspects where you wouldn't get in bigger companies. So the exposure in a bigger company is not there, at least for the first few years. Yes, you will go see a client, but it will not be when you're, let's say, not a junior, but somewhere in the middle. You're not seeing top level executives of the client all the time. Whereas in this business, in the insurance business, because we deal mostly with other businesses that offer cover to their employees, you are always exposed to top level management. Also, in the insurance field, we work with top insurance players around the world, insurance companies. So you get to be, you get to have conversations and negotiations with people at the very top of these big companies like Bupa, like Allianz, like AXA. Plus, it's a global market. Because we work with all these international companies, it means that we always deal internationally. We've got international clients. There's always international conferences of these companies. So
the exposure and learning curve was,
Yes.
Much steeper than
yeah,
had you stayed in a bigger organization.
yeah, especially relationship-wise.
Yeah, the personal side.
Yes.
So tell us a bit about insurance. Like, I don't know very much about it. I mean, I know there's insurance, reinsurance. You deal with health insurance.
We deal predominantly with health insurance.
You also deal with other insurances?
Yes.
Such as?
We'll do some life insurance.
Okay.
And we do like business insurance, which consists of directors and officers liability.
Yeah, professional liability.
Professional indemnity,
Yeah.
employer's liability, things like this. So most of our clients are businesses,
Okay.
either buying these kinds of products or insuring their employees for
Which
health, for life.
I'm sure is quite useful because then whatever insurance you're offering, you can keep, serve the client
Yes.
holistically in all their aspects in their
Yes.
in their personal and their home life, but then also in their business. So you're also not losing clients and you've got that trust.
Yes.
And you guys represent Bupa. You have Bupa Cyprus.
Yes. So the company started as the Bupa agent of Cyprus.
Yeah.
In Cyprus. It has evolved. 5 years ago, we got an independent broker's license, meaning we can work with a number of insurance companies. The big difference is that as an agent, you represent the insurance company. As a broker, you represent the customer. So
is there conflicts of interest?
Yeah, well, typically, as a broker, you'll get a customer sending you a request. You sit there with a customer, you understand their needs, and then you go and find the policy that suits them. So you represent the customer, not the insurance company. This, for us, is it fits a bit more with our culture. Insurance companies...
In what way? You mean as a business culture or as a country culture?
Business culture.
Okay.
Yeah. We want to be on the side of the customer. We want to be able to fulfill their needs. If this is what they need, if this is their budget, if this is their timeline, this is what we're going to go out in the market and find for them. Definitely most of our customers are with Bupa. As I said, we started with being agents of Bupa in the early 90s. Bupa, for those who don't know, it's one of the biggest international health insurance companies.
And I think generally regarded as the strongest and the best.
I would probably say so. Yes, I would say so. And I'm saying it as someone that now works with a lot of insurers. One of the reasons is that they're very focused on health. That's what they do. They do health, and they've always done health, as opposed to other huge insurance companies that do everything. So they'll do life, they'll insure big projects, they'll insure bridges, they'll insure liability, everything. They're also very good, but they're not as specialized. And specialized means what? They're always innovative. They're always a step ahead. What we see is that when the likes of Bupa do something new, it's a matter of time that everyone else will follow. So, we're very proud that we have had this relationship with Bupa all these years. I should probably mention that Nicos Rossos is the biggest Bupa global broker in Europe, excluding the United Kingdom. So we have a really good relationship with Bupa, and we pride ourselves that we really specialize on their products and on the servicing of those products. And this has to do with relationships, basically, because we know people at Bupa. We're friends. I can say I've got friends there that I text and call whenever I need something, unlike calling the call center.
So I'm going to ask maybe a silly question, but why is insurance so important, especially in a world where national health systems are either well established or being introduced and are generally well regarded?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually, and it's time wise, it's very for Cyprus. Well, first of all, you've got the international aspect. So when you have international health insurance, it means you have the choice to get treatment wherever you want worldwide. That I consider as very important, especially for Cyprus, because we're a very small country. We don't specialize in everything. The bigger the country, the more cases the doctors have. Therefore, rare conditions, it's more likely to find doctors abroad who have the experience to treat. Whereas here, there's a lot of things we can't
we
treat.
just don't know,
Yeah. So the international aspect is one. The access, the quick access to healthcare is another. You can see in most health systems around Europe, which are considered to be some of the top in the world, there's huge queues. Why? Because national health systems are often mismanaged, underfunded. There's a lot of corruption, and
overloaded.
They're overloaded.
The demand is
exactly
more than the supply.
Exactly. So, and I don't want to criticize. I think the way it's been set up in Cyprus, it works very well until
now. Yeah. So we're still it's still a baby. It's still new,
a baby.
Isn't it?
Exactly. So no, I'm not criticizing or judging that, but all I'm saying is that I do think that having private health insurance, quick access to hospitals around the world with direct settlement. Direct settlement means that you go get your treatment, which can cost anything between, I don't know, if it's a surgery, it can be 5,000, 50,000, 100,000. But this is paid directly by the insurance company, not by yourself.
And then wait to be paid back. Yeah.
Because, if something costs 100K, you might not have that money, or you might not have it in your pocket at that moment. So, it's really, really reassuring knowing that wherever you are, wherever you go, if you need something, you're covered. Plus, you get access to a lot of facilities by being insured. So, for example, let's say you're traveling, you have some emergency. You're in London. You go to a hospital there, one of the best private hospitals. Unless they get a guarantee of payment from your insurance company, they're not going to let you in. They're going to ask you to pay up front, everything. So I think these factors are some very important factors that people need to think about.
To consider when they...
Especially people who travel a lot.
And is there a kind of rule of thumb or like how much somebody should set aside for insurance? I know a lot of companies cover insurance, although many, I think, in Cyprus and probably all over the world, once the national health systems are set up, they're like, well, you don't really need insurance anymore. But is there, we've had it said on this podcast before by Dr. Bouhalis, in general, people work 2 months to afford a 2-week holiday. There's some like industry ideas about how much something will cost the average person. So is there someone should set aside 5% of their salaries for health insurance or for rainy days?
Yeah. I wouldn't set a specific number because everybody's needs are different.
And obviously the different type of insurances someone can buy are different. The coverages.
Exactly. So number one, very well, there is different coverage. So it depends what you need. Number two, different circumstances. Number three, which country are you living in? It depends. Healthcare systems in one country are very different to the healthcare systems in other countries. Private healthcare in one country is very different or very differently priced compared to another country. So it's a very personal thing. And different policies give you different options. That's where your broker comes in, because your broker is your consultant. Your broker will listen to your needs and they'll advise on which policy suits your needs based on the suitability and affordability of what you've told your broker. So plus another thing which is very positive is the kind of ancillary services you get with having an international medical insurance policy. For example, for business policies, some of the big insurers, they offer for free what's called the employee assistance program, which is you get free counseling sessions with a qualified counselor as an employee for whatever issue you'd like to discuss, be that stress, be that problems at work, problems with the family, anything. It's confidential and it's free. This is an add-on which is free.
Which is amazing, which is really... I had another guest, Dr. Cesar, on the podcast, who was talking about holistic health and how, everything is connected. So he's an osteopath, but he specializes in Chinese medicine, but how, it can be our emotions, it can be every part of the body's connected. And I love that the medical sphere is also recognizing that mental health is so important.
Yes. And it's what I was saying earlier. Who started this? Bupa started this. Now everybody
is doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if someone is stressed, then of course they're going to have stomach issues, or of course their skin is going to react, or of course they're going to get migraines or whatever else. Yeah. And then there's no point. Also, it serves the company and the national health systems and everything else, and the doctors, because if someone's taking up time, I'm not saying it's not necessary, but maybe preventable time, having the MRIs and the blood tests and everything, when actually they're just really stressed because they're worried about their paycheck or whatever else, then it can be, the root cause is actually, can be diagnosed and helped before it gets to the stage of the physical.
Of course. And I personally am very happy that insurers have this mentality. They, especially for mental health issues, which is, 10 years ago, it wasn't there. It was
there, just people weren't recognizing it.
Yes. Yeah. And in the insurance industry, it was a bit of a luxury when a policy offered mental health cover, psychologist fees, psychotherapy.
And yet
And
1 in
now-
3 people will suffer.
Oh, definitely.
Or are
definitely.
suffering,
Definitely. And now you see a very proactive stance. So they come out and they will cover, full cover, anything that has to do with mental health, which for me is amazing because mental health is not restricted to having a very serious condition.
Yeah, disorder or depression. It could be,
It can be just stress. And, there's a lot of things that you can avoid in the future by just having someone to speak with for, once a week, maybe twice a week for an hour. Someone who is qualified to be able to have this conversation with you, to help you maybe just rebalance yourself. Maybe you've had a couple of stressful weeks. Maybe you're passing through a difficult phase. If you have someone...
to help ground you and, as you say, balance.
Then... And it's great that the insurers are recognizing
And, of course, your
this.
wife, this is her forte, so you know about this, which really complements your work and what you do. So,
Yeah, that's true. She's a psychologist. And I've had to learn a lot of things.
That's interesting. How is that, being married to a psychologist? Do you feel like everything is being analysed? I don't want to eat. I don't know what this tonight. Are these issues from childhood?
No, she insists that I cannot be her client.
Yes, well, I would hope so. Yeah.
So but I mean, it's. I think it's good because you've got someone that understands you very well. So I think that's positive.
Yeah,
that's very positive. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So let's talk about the States. I think we all, everybody is exposed to movies and Hollywood and seeing how America is and how if you don't have health insurance, that's it.
Yeah.
That there is no national health system, which is insane to most of us living in Europe. So, and Obama obviously did a huge effort with healthcare that I think now has, for the most part, been negated, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, I know we're not living in America. This is not your forte, but I'd love to hear your opinion a little bit about America or other countries that don't have healthcare systems, maybe people who can't really afford,
that's the problem
health
now.
coverage. Yeah. Well, where do you think it's going? Because these are Western.
Yeah.
This is a Western empire, not even country.
Yeah.
That it seemingly seems so backward on.
Yeah. And that's exactly the problem is affordability now, because everything there's no basic healthcare.
Yeah.
And it's so expensive to get treatment in the US. So expensive. You have to have insurance. You have to have insurance. And, sometimes I wonder why... Okay, the answer is obvious, but we have mandatory car insurance. And I'm wondering why wouldn't we have mandatory health insurance? At the very I'm not talking about like having premium,
coverage
Bupa
of
and
the
Allianz. And, I mean, I'm talking about basic cover for everyone.
Because I know in Cyprus, even before we had our national health medical system, we had, if somebody earned under a threshold, and the threshold was quite low, but it was still there. So if someone didn't earn X amount, they could go to the hospital and get free healthcare. Yeah. So that was always there, even, before our new system came in. Yeah. Why does that not exist in America?
Yeah, well, politics.
It's insane.
It's all politics, yeah. Unfortunately, it's politics. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple more questions. I say Bupa, but let's say any insurance. What has this taught you about life, like working in insurance? Like what life lessons do you think you hold dearer because of this? I mean, you must have seen so many things from comical, crazy claims to, soul-destroying moments of individuals. Yeah. What do you take from that at this point in your life?
That we have to live every day as if it's the last. I mean, you never know. You never know. And this I think we can all see, not just from having insurance industry exposure, but I think in general we see it in everyday situations. But yeah, specifically for insurance, you do see how things can turn negative in a second. This is a lesson. The other thing I see is, and I'm very happily surprised sometimes, is how much a lot of employers care about their employees. And this is so nice to see. You've got employers that, even though having premier international health insurance is quite expensive, they still list it down as a priority. And this is amazing to know, because you see that people care. And most of the times, these are the businesses that do well because the bosses really care about their staff. So yeah, these are the two things that
really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that. So, Hotel Talk, your granddad used to own a hotel.
He did.
And
He
your
did.
mum used to work in it.
Yes.
When you were little.
I was very small, yes.
You were very small. Do you remember?
I do remember.
How old
some
were you when it
things.
was sold? Limonia,
Must have been.
for those of you in Cyprus that remember.
7 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember having birthday parties there
Yeah.
as a kid. So I've watched tapes that my parents used to tape. You know, those old big ones, video and things. It was. I don't remember many things, but I remember good feelings.
Yeah, because I know whenever we're at, family gatherings or events and I see your mom, she's always like, I understand you, Farah. Like, yeah, she was in the industry and, it's tough, like being a mummy as well. And you guys were super, super little. I should ask your mum, because I think we've had other hoteliers on here that, it's such a lifestyle, this job. It's not a job.
Yeah.
So suddenly to have that lifestyle and then move to something else is quite a big thing. So
well, imagine my grandfather. He used to run the hotel, and then he went into insurance at the age of 65 or something.
Wow.
It's like
when other people are retiring.
Yeah.
He's for the next 20 years changed his
Yeah. So as I said, I was very young. I do remember something, but I remember feelings mostly because it was like you were open to the world. You were in a hotel. There were people from so many different places, and you're young. You live in a small island, yet you're swimming in the pool, and there's tourists from so many different places. You hear different languages. You see a different vibe compared to what you see outside in the street. So, it was really, really nice, and I spent quite 2-3 summers that I can remember in the pool, in the beach. It was very nice.
You know what? No one's ever summed it up like that. So thank you. It's so true. You get exposed to the world in this relatively small environment.
Of course.
And especially for us in Cyprus, it was and then it was a big thing.
Yeah.
Oh. So, favorite quote? The giggle.
Probably, one of the best ones I'd say it's that we have to be the change that we wish to see in the world. By Gandhi. I probably it's one of the favorites of many people because I think it's very.
You know what? In over 80 episodes now, I don't think anybody's said that quote.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's. There's so many amazing quotes in the world. So we've had some. I think at some point I've got to write a whole list and just have it down. Maybe on this second year anniversary.
Okay. Yeah.
So in September 2024, we'll write down. By then, I don't know how many episodes we would have done. Maybe 150. Yeah, but we've had amazing quotes. But I also love that quote. It's one of my favorites. Yeah.
It's just, it has, for me, it has two meanings. First of all, you have to look at yourself and do what you need to do first before looking at others. But also, it can also refer to the fact that, we can't control everything. There's so many things we can't control, but we can control ourselves, and we can control how we react to things that we cannot control. Can control our reaction. So I think...
Yeah, and we're not responsible for other people's reactions.
Oh, yeah.
So I always tell my kids as well, you're responsible for yourself, how you feel, what you do, but you can't control...
Of course,
others.
Yeah, I agree.
Amazing. Right, bonus question. The tradition on this podcast is that everybody gets to pick from this crystal bowl. Okay, what's the most difficult part of being a... Finish the sentence. Okay, this is the first. I'm going to repeat this. What's the most difficult part of being a...
Wow.
Husband. I said that because I just saw your lovely wife yesterday. No, you finish it. And then you've got to answer it, I guess. So what's the most difficult part of being a... And then answer your own question.
Husband, I wouldn't say, because I'm
joking.
I don't find it very difficult, to be honest.
Well done, Svetlana, when she listens to this. Because your wife makes it easy then. I'll give her some tips on making it harder.
No, please. Well, I don't want to go into the business side. I want to go more into the hardest part of being someone who likes sport very much is dealing with growing up and, getting older, basically. And I'm saying this because...
And accepting it.
Yeah, because I like playing tennis, I like playing football, and a couple of days ago I had an injury, and I was thinking, and then on top of that, I watched the new Beckham documentary on Netflix, which shows his career and how he was feeling when he was getting close to the end. And, for me, it's really, I understand that I cannot be what I was 10, 20 years ago, but it's not easy. You don't want to face it.
Yeah, it's true. I was thinking of my mom. Okay, everybody says, to grow old gracefully, but my mother always just told me, no, every age is beautiful. So just enjoy every age for what it is.
I agree.
And
she's right.
But it's hard sometimes because, you look in the mirror and you're like, hey, I didn't have those lines, before. Or you see a picture of yourself, or you go to jump on a trampoline with your children, or I was in Paris this summer and, decided to jog, which I haven't literally jogged since I was a teenager, and tripped on the pavement. And I felt like I was 100 years old, like this old woman. But it's, I guess it's just about mindset and viewing it in a different way. We've grown in other ways, and we're wiser, and hopefully we're better people, and we found more inner peace. And okay, maybe you can't, you can still do your tennis and football, but maybe you just do it at a slower pace,
Slow
or with
down.
people your own age, instead of like 25-year-olds. Well, we've had loads of people on this podcast, and one is a great example, Dimitra George. I'm not going to say how old she is. I don't even know how old she is. but she's, let's say retirement age. And she was staying in this hotel playing tennis every day with her husband. And they only took up tennis recently as well, because they've got a place with a tennis court. And they were like, hey, we're not using this. And now they play tennis every day and they love it. So
impressive.
And I love that, because
Yeah,
it just
of course.
shows you're never too old.
Yeah.
And I think we grew up with parents who the mentality was a bit, they used to say that you don't play squash after 40, or you don't. But actually, no, you can do.
Yeah.
There's people who run marathons in their 80s and only started running, or doing endurance sports in their 60s. Why not?
Why not?
And
it's
if you
about
build it up
training.
and training.
It's about training and managing the situation. So up until now, I could just get up, go and play football, for example, without warming up, without doing anything. Now you have to train. You have to be ready. You have to manage yourself. After the game, you have to, I don't know.
Yeah, have your cool down.
Cool down,
Yeah.
Put
Put
maybe
your
get a
tracksuit
massage
bottoms
the next
on.
day.
Yeah. Any excuse for a massage. Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
And probably move to, like, from football maybe to tennis, play more tennis, less football, because it's
less of a contact sport as well. And different eras, all beautiful. We've got
complain.
lots to.
Can't complain.
But it's true. The whole getting older kind of, I don't want to say battle, but acceptance is, sometimes it's not impossible, but it's a new process you have to.
It's the mental health
process.
we're talking about.
Yeah. Or when you realize, like, oh my goodness, when I remember my parents, who I thought were old at the time, and they were younger than I am now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Victor, thank you so much for
My
coming on
pleasure.
Hotel
Thank
Talk.
you.
It's been
Thank
a really, really interesting and enlightening conversation. I've definitely learned a lot from it. And I think I'm a better person because of your wise words. So thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Farah. Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Thanks.